So you want to learn how the dome skipping works against Final Xemnas and King March 2 Final Mix Rando. Final Xemnas on the surface can be a pretty daunting boss, especially for newcomers, but if you know how the fight works and how to push him into a phase where you can dome skip, he becomes much less of an issue. His first phase, or his initial throw/dance, can be summarized by just a bunch of very well timed reflects and reversal reaction commands. One thing to note, that just because during this phase reflect is registering, it will not always do damage, as certain parts of the fight Xemnas has iframes during the section of the dance. On critical mode without scum, it can be a little sketchy because most times you can and will be one shot, but learning the timing of when to reflect and when to reversal, the risk really start to minimize. Immediately start the fight with a reflect to cancel the throw animation and go straight into the dance. One reflect to start the fight, 2 reversals, delay the next reflect after those just a bit to get more damage off, 2 reversals into a reflect, into 5 more reversals. 1 reflect, 1 reversal, 1 reflect into 2 reversals, and this ends the dance phase. This is where a lot of people like to pause buffer, and if you hear be gone, delay your reflect just a bit to make sure you don't get hit by the orb coming, and if you hear vine, reflect immediately. The second phase is where many different approaches can be taken. The approach I'm going to cover is just forcing the laser phase. Once Xemnas is in his second phase, he's going to do a few different attacks that can all be reflected. The first being his spinning attack animation with his sabers, and the other being a spin kick sort of move that was without his sabers. After reflecting, if he has not his HP gate to go into laser phase, there's a chance he will retaliate with a vine. If you do a combo after he staggers after reflect and you force his RV, there's a chance he can also go for another throw animation into a dance phase, which is something to watch for. If he does that, don't worry, he goes into lasers immediately after if you do enough damage during the dance. Ideally, you want to reflect attacks and force him into his laser phase as opposed to doing extra combos. During laser phase, his first attack will be a surrounding one that can be reflected. Be sure to time the reflex, as too early will end up getting you hit, and too late, the damage will be minimal to none. He then, depending on his RV, will either continuously do sets of 3 lasers until another surrounding one, or potentially do a set of 3 into a surrounding one, back to sets of 3. What you're looking for is to get him somewhere around 1 HP bar left during this phase. You can leave with him as little as roughly 75 to 85% left of his last bar before he will go into his dome animation, so pay attention to where you're at. If you notice he is still on the sets of 3 and the next reflect you do will do too much damage, guard until he does another surrounding one. The next surrounding one he does will go into a teleport, into a delayed laser where he says, "Why don't you vanish?" This right here is the safest spot to initiate the skip, as there is enough time from the surrounding laser to do 2 reflects, let the reflects start to hit, and enter a session. If the reflects were timed right, and you manage to get into a session, he has somewhere around 60% HP left when you start the session, congratulations, you're going to dome skip as long as everything connects. A few last things to note: the finishing move All's End will not kill Final Xemnas. If you know that you will not kill him before the finisher using All's End, restore your MP under the iframes of the limit. Do the All's End finisher after restoring the MP, and use 3 reflects after the All's End finisher into another session, and this will allow you to skip. Rinse and repeat if you need to.